speakproacademy.com. We're going to get into the reasons why speakers don't get booked. So if you're not getting booked, there are several reasons that it could be. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to see who's hopping on. I think there's about 20 billion people who hopped on. Yeah, there's way more people who exist in this world, but that's how we roll, right? So let's see who's hopping on. Whoops, wrong video. So like I said, today is all about, dang it, when is this thing going to pop up? All right, there we go. So today it's all about, like, why are you not getting hired as a speaker? And I remember just building my business. Same thing happened to me. Pretty much everything that happens to you happened to me, probably tenfold, to be honest. And so for the longest time, I'm like trying to get hired as a speaker, entertainer. I wasn't getting hired. I'm wondering what the hell's going on. Unfortunately for me, I didn't have anybody to go to ask what the hell is going on. Like, why am I not getting hired? And so, fortunately for you, we're going to talk about that. Earlier this morning, I showed you guys in the email, I talked about in the email, unknown unknowns. So unknown unknowns are basically things that you literally do not know exist. Like, literally. Let's say, for example, you know you don't have a great website, and you know this, but you don't really know how to improve it, right? That's a known unknown. So you know you need to improve your website. You know it's bad, but you don't really know how. So it's known, but it's unknown. Same goes with, let's say, reaching out or something. Like, it's known, you know you should reach out to events, but it's unknown in terms of exactly how you should do it. So you can Google it, right? You'll probably find my stuff, but you can Google it. There are things out there that are unknown unknowns. These are things that you don't even Google. You won't go to YouTube. You won't even ask the question because you don't even know that it exists. You don't even know what question to ask. And the perfect example of an unknown unknown is sounding in demand, right? So I keep telling everybody this, like, hey, you guys need to learn how to sound in demand because you're saying things like, thank you for your reply. Please consider me for your event. Little things like that. It makes you sound like a scrub. It makes you sound like a scrub speaker who's only getting 1 gig a year, right? So you need to learn how to sound in demand. And a lot of people, they don't know that they don't sound in demand. It's an unknown unknown. And so if you can't figure out these unknown unknowns in your business, you simply will wonder what the hell is going on. Why am I not getting hired? Why is this not working? So you have to figure out what these unknown unknowns are. The biggest unknown unknown is really what's going on inside of your brain. And I was looking at this and I was thinking, like, most of this is actually psychological, right? In terms of, like, excuses, all that sort of stuff, most of it is psychological in terms of the unknown unknowns. And so that's what we're going to get into in terms of why you guys probably aren't getting hired in general. Sometimes you know, like, you know, maybe you need to improve your website. You know, you need to do outreach, but maybe you're just procrastinating all the time. So those are known knowns, known unknowns, but be aware of, well, actually, you can't be aware of unknown unknowns. In order to be aware of unknown unknowns, you essentially have to be around people, either program, books, and you have to get more knowledge, like get more information inside of your brain so that unknown unknown becomes a known unknown. It's like they say, we only know 4% of the universe. Like, everything we know, every single thing we know, gravity, every piece of physics, everything that we know is only 4% of the universe. 4%. That's ridiculous. I mean, you're sitting there, you're trying to get a grade in school, in high school, and you get a 4% out of 100. Man, you are a failure in life. We are a failure, just a failure human being race. We only know 4% of the universe, right? And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out the other 96%. That's what you have to figure out. So let's talk about how do you actually, like, basically, why are you not getting hired? And by the way, remember, if you have any questions, make sure you ask the questions now as I go through, because once I'm done, if I don't see any questions, we're done, right? So make sure you ask the questions now, and I'll go through any questions later on in just a second. So the first thing I want to talk about in terms of why you're not getting hired as a speaker, this is one of the things that I never really understood it when I got these emails. Speakers would say, like, hey, does this work in my country? Right? And so basically you're thinking that marketing is different in your country. So obviously I live in the US. You're like, oh, I live in Canada. I live in Israel. I live in Mexico. I live in Germany, whatever. You live somewhere else other than the US. You're like, does this thing work in my country? In my brain, when I first got that email, I remember what happened. I was like, what the that was literally what happened in my brain when someone asked me that question. I was like, did I read that wrong? What? Is there something else to this email? That's literally what happened inside of my brain because it didn't make sense to me. That's almost like saying, does talking to people work in another country? It's literally the same thing. Like when people say, oh, does this work in my country? It's literally like saying, does talking to people work in my country? That's why it absolutely confused the hell out of me. I'm like, what are you talking about? Does this work in your country? And so when you say that, that is one of the reasons why you're not getting booked, because you think that the marketing is different in your country versus another country. You have to understand that maybe you're looking up business stuff, right? And so you're looking up business and you see that, let's say Starbucks or McDonald's, or actually McDonald's, perfect example. McDonald's, their menu here in the US is very different than if you were to go to, I don't know, a different country, right? Another kind of France or something, right? So it's different. The menu, it always changes. But McDonald's has to worry about other things, whereas a speaker, it's completely different. A speaking business is very different than a big international business like freaking McDonald's. McDonald's has to worry about things like that. You, as a speaker, you don't have to worry about crap like that. You have to understand that marketing is the same in any country. Your marketing is the same in any country. As long as you can talk to people, it's the same. Whether you send an Instagram message, an email, a freaking cold call, Facebook message, doesn't matter. You just have to learn how to pitch you. It doesn't matter what country you're in. It just does not matter. And so this is hands down one of the worst excuses in terms of why speakers aren't getting booked. It's a simple excuse that speakers tend to use in general. Like when speakers tell me this, like, oh, does it work in my country? I'm like, wait, so are you saying there isn't a single speaker in your country who's getting booked? Are you saying that the only speakers in the world who get booked live in the US? Is that what you're saying? And that's why it just absolutely confused me. And so if you think that marketing you as a speaker in a different country is different, then you need to pimp slap yourself. Put some baby powder on your hand and pimp slap yourself. All right. So the next reason in terms of why you may not be getting booked is like another variation of this in terms of your topic, right? So you might be saying like, oh, my topic is different though. Like, my topic is different. So this is very interesting because there's like two different versions of this. So on the one hand, you may have a topic that literally does not get you paid. And I talked about this before. It's like in terms of you're trying to sell something that people don't want to buy. So that's one thing. That's a legit reason. On the other hand, if you have a topic that people pay for, people tend to use it as an excuse. They say, but my topic is different. They use it as an excuse for why they can't do the marketing. So you have to truly understand, which one are you in? Are you in the one where your topic literally does not get paid? Or are you on the other hand where it's just you're using this as an excuse for why you suck at marketing? So you have to understand, like, which one are you in? So your country, it doesn't really matter what country you're in. It doesn't matter what topic you're in for sure, unless you're literally in a topic that doesn't get paid. But your topic, you got to understand the speech you have and selling the speech are two different things, like completely different things. Nobody knows what your speech is until they actually paid you and they hear your speech on a stage. This is why it doesn't matter when speakers send me an email saying, here's my story. I have a great story. I'm a survivor of XYZ disease or whatever, right? And I think to myself, like, it doesn't matter what your story is. It literally does not matter, because you have to learn how to sell that story. So your story, your speech doesn't matter. You have to learn how to sell it. And so that's why your topic literally doesn't matter. So understand that. And actually, the next one was selling your speech. So the other reason in terms of why you're not getting hired is just because you don't know how to sell your speech. You confuse your speech with the selling of it. Remember, people do not know what your speech is until they actually pay you. Like literally, they don't know until they actually pay you. Think about it when you go buy a book. You go to Barnes and Nobles, if they still exist, or maybe you're on Amazon. You look at a book and you see a new book came out, right? You don't read the book, then pay for it. You have to decide on whether or not to pay for it, and then you read it. The same goes with your speech. They don't see your speech and then pay for it. They pay for it, and then they see it. So you have to learn how to sell it before they actually see it. That's what you have to truly master. That's in terms of the outreach and all that. But in terms of getting hired, most people don't know how to sell their speech. They confuse their speech. Well, it's like an entitlement type of mindset. It's like, well, I'm a great speaker. I get that all the time. People say, I'm a great speaker. I just own it when I step on a stage. I just need help getting on a stage. I'm like, well, you just got to learn the marketing, right? So I was in the same position. I remember, like, just as an entertainer, when I saw that one magician, I was like, what? This dude's not better than me. In fact, I'm way better than this guy. How is he booking more gigs, right? I was absolutely flabbergasted. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And so it was just because I was focusing on the actual craft. I was like, all right, let me work on my craft. Whereas this person, he got his craft down, and then he was like, let me sell the hell out of this thing. And so that's what he did. That's what you have to learn how to do. You have to learn how to sell the hell out of it. And so just master that, right? It's like your emails are basically, they're talking too much about you. This is one of the things where I keep telling speakers that you don't know you're doing it. So when you email somebody, when email, call, Instagram message, whatever it is, when you reach out to people, what happens is you talk too much about you. You're saying, here's my story. I'm a cancer survivor. I did this. I did that. You're talking too much about you. Nobody cares. You have to learn how to actually figure out how to take that story, how to take your message, how to take your speech and insert it into their event. It does not matter what your story is. It doesn't matter. You have to learn how to stop talking about you and how to relate it to them. That's what you have to figure out. It's basically Jeff Bezos has it right. Like, there's a reason why the dude's like one of the richest people in the world. It's because he has 100% focus on the customers, like 100%. You have to do the same thing with people who are hiring you in order to sell your speech. You simply say, what's going on inside their brain? What exactly do they want? Like, that's what literally has to happen. This is harder than you think, because what happens inside of our brains is we're like, well, what do they want? And then for some reason that translates into, what do I want to sell them? Like, that's literally what happens. So you have to truly be aware of when you're doing that. The other reason in terms of why you're not getting booked, and this is probably the biggest reason, well, probably not the biggest reason. The biggest reason is probably the last reason, but this is probably second or third or something like that, right? It's just because you're not prospecting. You're literally not reaching out to events. Either you're not reaching out altogether or you're not reaching out enough. Like, you're doing like 5 emails a day or something, like something that literally doesn't matter. It's like throwing a little pebble in the pond. It just doesn't matter. And so you got to understand, like, how many events are you actually reaching out to every single day? Or are you sitting there posting on Facebook, Instagram, or are you creating content? Like, you're not actually reaching out. You're not actually getting business. You're basically doing the things that don't actually generate revenue. So, like, even if you're actually trying to build a brand, you're just trying to sell online programs, coaching, or whatever, even then you're creating content. You're not doing anything to actually get business. That's why you don't have business. So in order to actually to build the brand, you basically spend money to build your email list, and then you make offers to the email list. That's literally all you do. And the same goes with getting hired on a stage. You simply build a website, make it good enough to where you can actually reach out to events. You reach out to events, you say, hire me, son, or I'm going to send the mob to your place, right? And so that's basically one of the biggest reasons in terms of why I see speakers who aren't getting on stages. They're not reaching out to events. They understand it. They're like, yeah, maybe I should. And then when you ask them, how do you get gigs? Referrals. I get them through referrals. People just see me and then they just come to me. They just see me and they're like, oh my goodness, right? That's what speakers do. And so if you're not reaching out to events, that's literally why you're not getting hired, like literally. And then on top of that, the next reason in terms of why you're not getting hired is because you're not following up. So nowadays I don't actually think, all right, so here's what I tell everybody. In the beginning, you're going to follow up way more than what you normally would. So when you're starting out, let's say you're really trying to get on stages, you're following up to the point where you damn near become a pest. Like, people are like, dude, stop freaking email me. Like, that's basically to the point that you're following up in the beginning. Eventually, when you start getting hired, eventually you get to a point where you don't need to follow up as much with events. So you follow up like once or twice, really. In the beginning, you're following up 5, 6, 7 times. This is really just to get you into the state of mind of I need to follow up. And to get out of the state of mind of, oh, I'm bothering people. Oh, it's the weekend. I'm bothering people, right? So you have to get out of that state of mind. And so that's why I tell people you got to follow up a lot more in the beginning just to just kill that old state of mind that you were in and to get into that new state of mind in terms of just prospecting in general. So you're not prospecting. You're not following up with people. You don't really have a system to do it as well. I actually didn't even put that down here, but that is one of the reasons, because you don't actually have a system to do it. It's like you're kind of just going off the cuff. You're like, all right, let me just send an email out. Let me call somebody. You don't have any system whatsoever. You have no follow-up system, no nothing. Like it's just, you're just like, let me just do something, right? Now, I will say that if you do just do something, that is better than doing what most speakers do, which is nothing. So even if you just send 5 emails a day, even if you don't have a system, even if you don't follow up in any way, that is better than damn near 90% of speakers. Like I said, 90% of speakers, all they do is everything else except the actual things that will get them booked. They create content, they do everything else except the actual things that get them booked. And so you have to understand that you're not getting hired because you're not prospecting, you're not following up. The other thing that I have is you're spending too much time with other speakers. So you're sitting there, you join other speaker associations, whatever it is, speaker groups or whatever. You're talking with other speakers. I'll tell you right now, other speakers are scrubs. I'll tell you right now, that is just a simple fact. Most speakers are scrubs. They act like they're getting booked. They will never tell you they're not getting booked. I haven't met a single speaker who's like, yeah, man, I mean, I'm not really getting gigs. Like you just don't really meet those kinds of speakers. Like people, they'll have a ghost town calendar and then they'll say, yeah, man. Yeah, I get referrals. Yeah, I mean, my business is good. Business is good. Yeah. How's your business doing? Right? That's what happens. And so you're spending time around scrubs pretty much. And so this is like when I was just getting hired as an entertainer. I did the same thing. I spent time around other entertainers and like in forums, all that sort of stuff, right? I'm thinking I'm getting knowledge. I'm like, all right, man, how do I get gigs? And everyone's posting stuff like, oh, the way you get gigs is this, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, cool. All right, let me create a promo packet, right? And so that's what I was doing in the beginning. I was spending time around them, and it's just the level of think is very different. So if you spend time with other speakers or entertainers or whoever, what's happening is, like in my case with entertainers, getting a $2,500 gig was a whole lot. I mean, that was like, holy shiznit. You've made it. You got $2,500 for a gig. You've made it. You're at the top at this point, right? That was a state of mind with speakers. I mean, with entertainers. Getting a $500 gig, that was like, wow, that's impressive. Getting a $1,000 gig, that was like, whoa, this dude, you got to pay attention to him. Getting a $2,500 gig, that was like, holy snaps, this dude, he made it, man. Copperfield, move over, right? That was like the state of mind with entertainers. It's the state of mind with speakers as well. And so, on the other hand, I started hanging around actual millionaires, like millionaires, multimillionaires, and they would say things that didn't make sense, but their think was a lot bigger, which caused my think to get bigger and to make sense for me. So, for example, I'm sitting there, I'm around other millionaires, right? And I would tell them like, oh yeah, I'm trying to get $1,500 for a gig and I just not consistent, $2,000 for a gig. It's just not consistent and all that. They're like, what? $1,500? Shoot. Why don't you charge $50,000? Like create a package and then just $50,000 and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like not too many speakers get $50,000, right? And like they would just say things. I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense. They're like, oh, why don't you do this, that? I'm like, that doesn't make sense for the speaking industry, right? Because they were thinking from their industry. Like, I don't know, let's say they own a McDonald's restaurant. They're like, why don't you just open up a store? Like open up a storefront. And then when you have a storefront, you can have videos of your presentation on the storefront. And then people that come in, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense for you to speak. What? But they were thinking bigger, which caused me to think bigger. And that just caused me to actually figure out different ways to get paid. So you got to understand that if you're hanging around scrubs, you're going to be a scrub. So you want to hang around other millionaires, multimillionaires. You want to hang around the top-notch people because the conversations are very different. I can't stress that enough. It's like just conversations are different. You talk about just business stuff. You talk about just taxes and how to structure LLCs, S corps, and all sorts of stuff, phantom income, all that stuff, right? And so your thinking just starts to shift a lot. So that's really important. The other reason in terms of why you may not getting booked is because you're writing a book first. or you're just writing a book in general. I still do not have a book for the public. Like, I still don't. I never had a book for the public. And so you don't need a book to get a $20,000, $30,000 gig. And ask almost every speaker out there. Like, ask every speaker, do you have a book? Pretty much everyone would be like, yeah, I got a book. Look at their schedule, though. How many gigs do you have? Oh, well, I get my gigs through referrals. I mean, I'm booked up, I mean, yeah, how's your business doing? And so you got to understand that having a book means absolutely nothing unless your book gets you to the point where you're like, Tim Ferriss, and it's just freaking popular as all hell. Then that book will cause incoming leads. But once again, those incoming leads are going to dry up. This is what people don't get about having a best-selling book or just doing incoming stuff like that. It dries up. Referrals dry up. I almost said the name there. But this big time speaker, every single one of you guys know who he is, but this big time speaker, I know for a fact his business is struggling like hands down like a mofo, because he relied on referrals. And so he went from being one of the top speakers to now struggling to get any gig whatsoever. I mean, the dude's lucky to get a $30,000 gig once a month. And so it's just because referrals dry up, your book sales dry up, that those inbound leads dry up. And unless you know how to reach out to events, you won't have a consistent flow of income. Like, you won't have a consistent flow of revenue. This is why Tony Robbins just freaking owned the industry, because he wasn't like all the other guys. Like, all the other guys are like, oh yeah, I'm at the top. Now I just get referrals. Gigs just come into me. Tony Robbins, he did that. Like, he was at the top, gigs were coming into him, but what else did he do? He kept prospecting. He's like, all right, let's franchise this crap. Let me get these people. They're going to go door to door. They're going to walk to every single business, and they're going to sit there, talk to businesses and generate more revenue for me. Tony Robbins was smart about it. That's why the dude just freaking owned the industry, right? And so if you're thinking about like writing a book because you think that if you get a book, it's going to position you as an expert, and then you're going to be this top notch, you're going to get like inbound leads and everything, you're in for a wake-up call. Once again, guys, remember, if you have any questions, make sure you ask them now. Wait, did this thing freeze up? What just happened? All right, hold on. Let me see. I don't know if I'm live or not right now. Hopefully this thing didn't freeze up. All right, so it says I'm live on here. Let me go back to here. Hold on. Maybe the 20 billion people, I think it froze Facebook or something. Like, that's how I roll. 20 billion people up on here. So I'm like, yeah, 20 billion people is a little too much for Facebook to handle, or this thing to handle. So, all right, let's see. So remember, if you guys have any questions, all right, there we go. Back up. If you guys have any questions, make sure you ask them right now, because once I'm done, I'll go through the questions. All right. So let's see. Then the next thing, in terms of why you may not getting booked, is because you're doing too many things. Like, you're just doing too much. This is why I keep recommending to people the one thing, that book, The One Thing. At first, I used to think the Pareto principle. Like, I used to recommend that book, with the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, and then what was it, like Time Management for Entrepreneurs by Dan Kennedy. I actually still recommend that one. That was a really good book. But still, The One Thing, it boils everything down to that. And basically, a lot of people think that successful people do a lot. In reality, successful people do very little. They're just very good at that one thing that they do. They figure out, how do I get a lot done? And that's kind of what you're thinking about. What's the most important thing that I need to do that's going to produce all the revenue in my business? And that's what you focus on. You do that one thing. Everything else, you try to delegate if you can. If you can't delegate it, if you can't spend money to hire people, then you have to spend as little time doing it. And so you just have to be smart about it. It's like, I was watching an interview with Kobe Bryant, right? And so Kobe, he was, what was it? So he was taking his kids to school, like in the morning, right? And it would take like 40 minutes, like a 40-minute drive, because he was in LA, or he still is, I think. But he's in LA. So it was like a 40-minute drive at first. And he's like, okay, that's cool. But then it started to get longer because traffic just got worse. And he's like, oh, this is ridiculous, right? So now he was like, all right, how do I shorten this? I mean, how do I shorten the time? So he just actually paid for a helicopter ride. So he's like, you know what? Let's do a helicopter ride. And he just took a helicopter ride. It was a 15-minute ride at that point. And so he just figured out how to get more done in a short amount of time. And so a lot of speakers aren't getting booked just because they're doing too many things. They're not paying attention to their time. So you have to pay attention to your time. You're probably like creating a ton of content, podcasts, writing a book. You're trying to do outreach. You're trying to do all these things. And like I said, the reason why I just freaking owned it from the get-go is because all I did was send emails. I literally did nothing else. And it was probably because back then, it wasn't like how it is now. Now you hear everybody and their mama is talking about create content, do a podcast, do all this. Oh, podcast blowing up 2019. Oh my goodness, right? Everyone's talking about this stuff, right? And it is true. Podcasts are blowing up. Content, it is great to have if you're in the right business. The problem is, which one are you going to do first? Like, which one are you going to do first? Because you have to understand that outreach is going to take you at least a year to get it done. Creating content is going to take you a couple of years, actually. So what people don't realize about inbound marketing is that it takes longer to do inbound, to get your podcast popular, YouTube. It takes a lot longer to do that than to get business through outreach. All you have to do is just use common sense for that. If I want to let's say I want to contact Bill Gates. Let's say I want Bill Gates to notice me. What's the fastest way to do that? Is the fastest way for me to put out ads, to create a big brand and do that? Like, all right, let me create a freaking brand like Tony Robbins. Let me create all this content, podcasts, and eventually Bill Gates, he's going to notice me. I create all these ads. That, or I just figure out, all right, let me send this dude an email. Let me send his people an email. Let me call him up. Let me ask other people, hey, do you know Bill Gates? Can you get me in touch with him? Which one's going to get you there faster? Reaching out to him, or spending all the time building a huge brand and all that? Like, reaching out to him is going to be a lot faster. And so you just got to understand, like, a lot of people are doing too many things, and they do it just because of the shiny object syndrome. So if you're doing too many things, just dwindle it down to one thing. Buy that book, The One Thing, if you haven't bought it yet. All you have to do in order to actually get on a stage is just reach out to events. Build your website, reach out to events. That's it. All right. And then the other thing is, you think there's a secret. A lot of people think, oh, there's got to be something else. There's no way. There's only those two things, the website and reaching out to. There's no way it's just those two things to get booked and to get a $30,000 gig. No way. There's got to be something else I got to do. I got to have a podcast. I got to have a book. I got to create content. Like, you're thinking about all that stuff, so you think there's some secret. The only secret is in the small details of the things that you have to do. So the secret is in the small details of how do you build that website. The secret is in the small details of how do you reach out to events and sound in demand and reach out to them in the right way. That's where the secret is. But the secret isn't anything you don't already know. Every single thing that I've told you guys in terms of reaching out to events, you know that. You probably knew that before you knew about me. You knew, hey, I can cold call. Hey, I can cold email. You knew that. The thing that you don't know probably is how to actually systematize it, how to have the right email templates, how to sound in demand. You don't know the details of it, but you already knew the basics of what you should do. And for some reason, your brain is thinking, there's got to be something else. It can't be that easy. Just reach out. What? So your brain is thinking there's got to be something else. I remember watching a video with Will Smith, and Will Smith, he was saying, like, yeah, people just make it more complicated. Like, for some reason, we literally make things more complicated than they actually are. And so you're making things too complicated. The only secret is in the details. That's literally the only secret. You do have to learn those details, by the way, because otherwise what happens is it's the unknown unknowns. So it's like there's two people sending out emails. One person doesn't sound in demand. One person, they're like, hey, I would love to be a speaker at your event. I'm a cancer survivor and all this, right? And they don't sound in demand at all. The other speaker sounds in demand when he's reaching out to events, and this speaker's getting booked. That is why when people say to me, cold emailing doesn't work, I'm like, no, you just suck at it. That's just a fact. It's like anything. It works. You just suck at it. You're just not good at it. You have to get good at it, right? And so that's where the details come into play. That's the only secret there is. It's in the details. And then the other thing that I want to mention is in terms of why you may not be getting hired is because you think the speaking industry is changing. You're looking at trends, speaking trends and things like that. And hey, they're great articles to write. In fact, I'll probably write one because they always get a ton of hits. Like the 9 trends of 2019 in social media. Like it always gets a ton of hits. But there's no such thing as a speaking industry changing. I'll tell you this right now. The speaking industry is what's called a mature market. There's different markets, right? So there's like a declining market. There's like the VHS tapes and DVDs. Those markets are just going down. They're done for. So don't get into those markets. There's a mature market, which is essentially just stays the same. Like it in the beginning, it was like this and went up, and now it just levels off, right? And then there's essentially the newer markets, the newer industries like marijuana, right? So like marijuana is just boom, just freaking skyrocketed, right? If you enter one of those industries, like the marijuana industry, you'll become a millionaire really fast. That's how Mark Zuckerberg became Mark Zuckerberg. That's how Jeff Bezos became Jeff Bezos. They entered the industry at the right time when it was going like that, right? You are in the speaking industry. The speaking industry is like this. It is a mature market. It does not change. And so the only things that are changing are like the not even tactics or techniques, but what is it? So like the environment, I guess you'd say. So it's like social media, right? So social media has been around pretty much literally since the internet has been around. The only thing that has changed was the social media platform that was around. So Facebook didn't invent social media. MySpace was around before that. Friendster was around before that. I'm sure something else was around before that. The only difference was it went from like Friendster to MySpace to Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, all that sort of stuff. The same goes with speaking, right? So in the beginning, it was send out promo packets because remember, like websites didn't exist. Like remember in the beginning, there was no freaking, there was no internet in the beginning. So it was like, all right, send out promo packets. Let me write something. I'll create this PDF and I'll have like several different pages of stuff. And I remember one guy, he had like a book of testimonials like this, and he would mail out that book of testimonials. And so that would actually get a really great reaction because they're like, God damn, this dude has a lot of testimonials, right? And so you had a promo packet like that. And so that's when direct mail was really good. And then all of a sudden it shifted. The channel, that's what I was looking for, channel, right? So the channel changes. So the channel went from direct mail to send out that stuff and doing all the promo packets and stuff to now the internet where you have your website. And then the website, and then I'm sure it's going to get into VR at a certain point. Virtual reality and augmented reality. Eventually your website is going to be useless. Like eventually we're going to have to do virtual reality. I think that's going to be cool as all hell. Imagine this. Imagine instead of people going to your website, clicking around on your website, imagine you see like here and all of a sudden they put on goggles or just glasses like these or something, but they put something on or something pops up. It's like, hey man, how's it going? Benji Bruce here. Yeah. So you can just click over here for some videos. You can click right here to actually, to see some reviews. And then they click on the video, right? They're like, all right, let me click on this video thing. And then poof, now the entire environment changes around them. Now they're actually in the room where I'm on a stage and I'm like, yeah, everybody, yeah. And right. And so I'm like in a room. And they're there. It's almost like they're literally there. All right, so it's almost like they're literally there. That's what's going to happen eventually. I don't know when, but it's eventually going to happen like that. Websites are going to be non-existent. If you have a website, what's going to happen, I don't know, maybe when I'm 40 or something like that. I don't know, maybe around that time, you're going to hear me say to you guys, your websites are crap. If you guys have websites right now, what are you thinking? Like the same way that I talk about promo packets where I'm like, what are you doing? Like if you have a promo packet, you're like in the dinosaur ages. The same thing is going to happen in 10 years from now or something, right? I'm going to be saying like, if you guys have a website, you're in the dinosaur ages. That's literally what's going to happen. And so the channel changes, but the marketing and all that stuff is the exact same. Back then, when there was no internet and everyone had promo packets, back then, you were still reaching out to people. You were sending direct mail. You're reaching out to people. You have to know how to pitch to them. The psychology was the same. Meeting planners always thought, how do we bring in the best freaking speaker in the world? How do we bring in a speaker who's just going to own the event, where people are going to come out saying, damn, that was the best speaker I've seen in my life? That state of mind has always existed in meeting planners. It hasn't changed. It never will change. And so the only thing that changes is a channel. So it was direct mail in the beginning, and before paper existed, it was literally word of mouth. But it was direct mail, then internet, and then eventually it's going to go to VR, and then whatever happens after VR, right? So you got to understand it's just a channel that changes. The speaking market is a mature market, right? The last reason, in terms of why you're not getting booked, is probably the most important reason. Once again, guys, I want to mention, if you have any questions, make sure you ask the questions now, because this is going to be the last thing, and I'm going to go through the questions. So the last reason, in terms of why you're not getting booked, the number one reason why people don't build a business in general is excuses. Excuses, excuses, excuses. You are an excuse maker, right? I remember telling a friend this, where I think I mentioned this to you, where the friend, he wanted to create content, right? And so he wasn't creating the content. He's like, I'm going to film video or whatever, right? And he wasn't doing it. I was like, hey, where's the video? You said you have it last week. You said have it the week before, right? I'm like, where's the video? He's like, oh man, I mean, I got this wedding. I got this. I was like, look, Brandon. I was like, you know what I hear? I hear blah, 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 bitch mode. It's like, that's all I hear. It's like every single thing that happened, that came out of your mouth, it was a stupid excuse in terms of why you didn't do it. I don't care what happened to you. I don't care about in terms of you had a wedding. I was like, all I hear is blah, 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 bitch mode. And so every single excuse out of your mouth, every single reason as to why you're not doing what needs to get done is an excuse. Doesn't matter if the excuse is real. Doesn't matter if it's not real. It just doesn't matter. It's an excuse. Like when you say things like, I don't have time, I don't have money, I got to do X, Y, Z first. All those things are literally reasons, excuses as to why you aren't where you want to be. Literally. When you say, I don't have time, like that can be an actual reason, right? You can actually have a job where you wake up at 9 a.m. You got to be there at 9 a.m. You get off at freaking 7 p.m., right? And so literally throughout the day, you're like, damn, I ain't got time. In reality, you do. Why don't you wake up an hour earlier and start sending emails? Why don't you stay up an hour later, start sending emails? Why don't, instead of your lunch lasting an hour, why don't you hurry up and take like just plan your own meals and create your own meals at home, bring that, and you don't actually go out for lunch. You just send emails at lunch. You're just like, eat real quick, eat 10 minutes and bam, do that, right? And maybe like on the job, I've never seen anyone work on their job 24/7. Like people are always playing around. Like people are always like chatting with everybody and playing around just during the job. People aren't actually all that productive at their job. And so you have to look for where are the little breaks inside of your job. Little things like that. When people say, I don't have time and all that. And then on top of that, well, why don't you just switch and get 2 part-time jobs or a part-time job or whatever, right? It's one of those things where when people say things like that to me, like, oh, I got a job or something, I just think, well, it's not that important to you. Like literally your speaking business, growing your business is not that important to you because your job is number one. I get that you need to make money. I get you have to have a job, but you're using it as an excuse. And so you just got to understand in terms of the excuses like I don't know the technology, I don't know about CRMs, all that sort of stuff. Nobody freaking came out of the womb knowing technology. Nobody came out of the womb knowing how to build a damn website. Nobody came out the womb knowing how to use a CRM. You got to understand that people learn that. Why can't you? And so if you keep using these excuses in terms of, I don't know how to build a website, I don't know how to do a CRM, who cares? Who cares what you don't know? Freaking learn the damn thing. And so you have to understand that every single word out of your mouth in terms of why you aren't doing what needs to get done is a freaking excuse, a reason as to why you won't get it done. It's why you won't get to where you want to be. You have to start getting into a problem solving mode to where it's like, here's the problem. All right. The problem is I wake up I got to be at the job at 9 a.m. and then I get off at 7 p.m. So my problem is I don't really have all day to freaking send emails like you did, Benji. I mean, you talking about all day, every day. I ain't got all day, every day. I got to do things with my life. And so what happens is you got to problem solve. It's like, okay, here's the reality of the situation. What do I do about it? That's what I talked about this, like, I don't know, maybe several weeks ago in terms of excuses and reasons. What happens with most people is they stop at the excuse. You're like, I don't have time. They stop right there. I don't have time. I got a job. All right, I'm done. Or they stop at the money. I don't have money. I'm done. Right? They stop at the excuse. Whereas what real entrepreneurs do, if you really want it bad enough, you go past that. You figure out a way around it. It's like, all right, I don't have any money. How do I get it? Maybe I'll go to GoFundMe.com. I'll create a GoFundMe campaign saying, hey guys, I really want to speak for a living. This is what I've always been, I'm meant to do this thing. And you create an inspirational story on GoFundMe.com and you save up, you get people to fund you, and then bam, before you know it, you got 70 grand, and then you put that inside the bank as a rainy day fund or something, and you can now just do outreach all the time, right? So it's one of those things where, if you stop at the excuse, that is why you are where you are. You cannot change your life by living the same life you're in now. If you do not change your life will not change. You're going to your job from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and you're like, Benji, it's not reasonable for me to just go part-time. I got bills, man. I got bills, right? And so you just don't want to change your life. You got bills that you don't need to be paying. You don't need your freaking cable bill. All you need is freaking internet. And on top of that, just get the cheapest damn internet. You don't need all that stuff. And then your phone bill. You don't need to be paying a freaking $140 for unlimited with your phone bill. You don't need to be doing that. Just get the cheapest phone bill. Do it on Wi-Fi 24/7. Tell people, hey, I'm not going to call you or text you because I got the cheapest plan. So I ain't trying to go over my limit right now. And it's like if you're with Verizon, you switch to Cricket. Because Verizon is expensive. You switch to Cricket, then all of a sudden you get an unlimited plan for freaking $30, right? So little things like that, but people don't want to change their lives. They want their lives to change without actually changing their lives. And then when that happens, they just make excuses as to why their life hasn't changed. So if you're making excuses, all I hear is blah, 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 bitch mode. All right. So let's see who we're going to bitch slap here. All right. So let's see. Any questions? Make sure you ask some questions. So let's see. Mike said, I'm in demand now and have to go. All right. Cool. So let's see. Seriously, I'm here for a little while. All right. We got that. You're okay. We're waiting on these window washers. Oh, the window washers already came. They were here earlier. So you guys didn't hear it. The window washers are, man, it's loud as all hell, man. All right. So let's see. Monique said, hi, so I started doing my own workshops. Is this okay? Yeah, I mean, if you want to do workshops, then yeah. So just to understand that, like, workshops and getting paid to speak are very different. So just understand that, like your workshop, it's more like you're building your own brand and you're figuring out how do I get people to attend. So your main problem that you have is how do I get people to come to my workshops? And so what you're doing at that point, you're doing Facebook ads, Instagram ads to say like, hey, let's say your workshop, I don't know what your workshop is about, but let's say your workshop was about dating, right? So you're like, all right, men, here's how you talk to women, right? So that's what your workshop is. Now your problem is how do I write the ad copy for the Facebook ad and things like that. So it's very different in terms of if you're doing workshops versus if you're getting paid gigs. If you're getting paid gigs, literally you reach out to events. That's literally how you get on a stage. If you're doing workshops, then you are doing things like advertising, you're spending money on ads, things like that. That's how you do the workshops. Let's see, with your emails, did you send a bio page? No, so with every single email that I sent out, it was always to the website. Everything in terms of outreach is always send them to the website. That's why I said you got to have a great website because your website is your sales page. So what you're doing is you're simply saying, I'm the greatest speaker in the world. Go check it out. That's basically what you're saying, in a way. But yeah, all your emails, when you reach out to people, you need to get them to your website because your website, once again, you make it really great with the videos, the pictures, all that stuff. You make it really great. And then the website does everything for you. Like they go to your website and it just sells you. I remember when like years ago, maybe high school, yeah, it was definitely high school. So he was like, I had a photographer come over. He's taking pictures for my entertainment brand. And I showed him the website to a local entertainer. Man, this dude, the photographer, he looked at the website. He's like, damn. He's like, that dude lives here? He's like, I would think he has a Vegas show or something, right? I was like, man, what the hell? Like, but that's the reaction that your website needs to get to where they're like, damn, this dude looks like a freaking celebrity, right? And so when your website is that good, then your emails, all your email does is say, hey, check out the website, and bam, your website does the selling, all right? So, all right. He said, when we reach out, Is it free speaking to start? Yeah. When you start out, not only do you have to do it for free, you probably want to pay to get on a stage. In the beginning, your mindset is very different in the beginning. Your mindset is just, how do I get the marketing materials for my website? That's all your mindset is. It's not, how do I get paid? Because nobody's going to pay you. You have nothing to show them. It's like imagine a videographer or a photographer. Let's say they approach you. They say, hey, I can create the greatest video for you ever. Like I'm the greatest videographer ever. And you're like, well, show me something. You're like, well, I mean, I don't really have it. You just got to trust me, man. Just trust me. You're going to be like, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. And so that videographer, he can contact like a 1,000 people. Every single person is going to say the same thing. Show me a clip of your videos. And so that the guy, he won't have any, so he won't get hired. On the other hand, if all he did was contact somebody and say, hey, I see your business. I see your speaking business. I'd love to create a demo for you free of charge. And the reason why it's free is because I'm building my business. I just need to get some clips and stuff. Right. And so if all he did was that, you'd be like, oh, sure. Why not? And then instantly, like he contacts 10 people, he would have 10 videos instantly. And bam, after that, he now gets clients. Same goes with speaking. The only difference with speaking is that it's a lot harder. So like if you're a videographer, that's really easy to do stuff for free. If you're a speaker, people are still thinking, yeah, sure, they may do it for free, but I don't want someone who sucks. Like that's what people are still thinking. And so in the beginning, what you do is, even the free offer is hard to get on a stage. So what you do is you contact conferences and you say, hey, I'll sponsor your event as long as you let me speak for 15, 20 minutes and I can record it and everything, right? So that's what you do in the beginning, because you have to focus on getting those marketing materials. Let's see. Enrique said, can you go back to your doing too many things? The basics of that in terms of doing too many things is just focus on the most important things. The most important things in terms of getting hired as a speaker is, first, you got to build your website because you need something to send people to. Then you reach out to events. That's literally all you do. If you're doing too many things, you're just simply, you're unfocused. Like people don't realize how long things take to get done and how long the results take to actually manifest. And that's why people do too many things and then they get nothing done. And so you just have to understand, like, hey, you're literally doing more than you realize. Literally, the reason why I got booked, despite doing everything wrong in the beginning, I did everything wrong in the beginning, but I got booked because all I did was send emails. That's all I did. I just kept contacting people no matter what. And so when I did enough of that, eventually someone was going to say yes, which actually happened. On the other hand, if I sent emails and I created videos and I created all this other stuff, a book, I'm trying to write a book, all this stuff, I wouldn't have sent as many emails. And so I wouldn't have gotten hired as fast as I did. And so, you're just doing too much. All right. And so, all right, let's see. Got that. Let's see. Can you give an example of what an in-demand email sounds like? There's actually a video. So if you go to the Speaking Lifestyle website, type in demand. There's actually a whole Facebook Live that I did on it, or even just here on Facebook, type in demand, and you'll see like a whole Facebook Live on it. I may do more of those, but it's one of those where I actually have to go and look at the email and then see what they're saying. But basically, you just want to think in terms of what does a high status person do? Like, what do they do? What do they sound like? Low status people do things like they ask questions. They're very unsure of themselves, things like that. High status people tend to tell you things. They're like, hey, they just tell you stuff. Like, here's how it's going to be. That's literally what high status people do. And so that's what you have to do. You just have to assume, how would I react if I actually had 100 gigs, like every year? Like, what would I actually do? So that's the basics of that. But if you go back, there's like a whole freaking 60-minute presentation that I did on that. I'll probably do another one because, like I said, that is really, really important. It's one of the reasons why I tell people join the Speak Pro Academy, because no matter what I say about it, everybody does it wrong. Like, every single person does it wrong. I literally have never seen a single person do it right unless they're actually in demand. Like, literally nobody does it right because it's too hard to do by yourself, because it's one of those unknown unknowns. You don't even know you sound not in demand, right? You don't even know it. You're just doing things like you're saying, oh, thank you for your email. Would you please consider me as your speaker? Like, it's little things like that you're being too nice in your emails and you're not getting to the point. You're wasting people's time and everything like that. And so little things like that just makes you sound non-in demand. All right. So let's see. Ari said, would you consider doing once a week call for Speak Pro members? We just got Ari. I'm doing daily things right here. You guys got to ask questions here. What's up, man? It's like I'm doing daily stuff here. Ask questions here. All right. So let's see. All right, let's see. How much would you spend for a promo video? It's not really how much I would spend. It's more how much would you spend. So it's like. It's more like how much are you going to spend for a promo video? You spend however much you can afford for a promo video. The most important part is you just look for a really good videographer and then you just pay him whatever you ask for. Well, unless you ask for like $1 million and you're like, dude, come over here for a pimp slap, right? But yeah, in terms of the promo video, you basically just look for a really good videographer and then just ask them, hey, what do you charge? Try to negotiate with them, by the way, too. Remember, do the things that I tell you guys not to do. So do the things other people like, hey, man, oh, that's more than I thought. And then see how they respond to that. Like when you say, hey, I need a demo, blah, 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 you give them the idea. He's like, oh, that's going to be $1,000. You're like, oh, wow, that's a lot more than I thought. Do you like give any discounts or something? Then watch them negotiate against themselves. Watch them be like, well, I mean, I can do it for like $700 or so. Watch that happen. All right. So, so just do that. Let's see. Did you Google Direct? Google Direct mails people about AdWords, for God's sake. Yep. Yeah. The direct mail, by the way, it does work. Like it still works. It's one of the reasons why credit cards keep doing it. It's just a matter of like, can you do it the right way? And also it just depends in terms of can you get it right. And I wouldn't do direct mail, but it does work for certain industries like the credit card industry. It really works for them. It works for industries where the lifetime customer value is really high. So American Express, they can spend a lot of money in direct mail and they keep sending you to direct mail like freaking every day, every week, and saying like, hey, get our new credit card, get our credit card, they can keep doing that knowing you're throwing these away. But they know that if they just get one person, 1 out of 100, that one person is going to make up for everybody. Because they know that when people get the credit card, one person, they're going to generate hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars for them. So that's why it works for them. And so, yeah. All right. So let's see. Nick said, I lost my job yesterday because of a video I posted on YouTube over 6 years ago. How does someone find a good image brand consultant? I'm not sure I can succeed as a speaker with all the garbage online about me. Nick, your biggest thing is your state of mind, man. I guarantee you have nothing compared to these top-notch people like freaking Wolf of Wall Street guys, and your brand is like nothing compared to them. Like your bad image is nothing compared to these guys. There are people out there who have way worse image problems than you who are still doing great. Your problem is your state of mind. Like you're not using it to your advantage. You have to own it. You say, hey, I was in prison. Hey, I did that. You own it. Like that's the thing. The fact that you're hiding it, that is why you think it's a problem. And so it's just a problem because you're hiding it. That's the problem. And also understand that, this is with anybody with a job. What happened to Nick in terms of getting fired, that can happen to you, right? A lot of people think that there's job security. There's no such thing as job security. It's a complete illusion. At any second, you can just get fired for no reason. Like literally at any second. Just look at the Enron people at Enron who thought they were like living large. They're like, yeah, man, I got a great job. Oh, snaps. What did Enron do? Damn. All right. Let me pack up my things. Right. And so the only job security you'll ever have is by growing your own business. That's the only time you'll have job security. And so it's like right now, I can't get fired. Like I can't get fired no matter what. I'm my own boss, right? And so I have the best job security in the world. Nick, your problem is really your state of mind, man. It's that literally is your problem. You're thinking about everything all wrong. You simply have to think, how do I flip it? It's like the only time it's like jacked up is when it's literally something illegal. And now you're going to prison. Now you're like, oh, yeah. Now you got to worry about that. But with other things, like let's say you went to prison already, and that's already done for. So what? In fact, shoot, man, perfect example. This guy here in the high rise, actually right now he's in prison, but he was in prison a while ago, and now he was on probation. And then they threw him back in because the probation officer just got pissed off at him, just threw him back in. But this dude, he grew $1 million business all on his own, despite the fact that he's been in prison. Right now he's in prison. When he comes back out, he's going to just own his business again. And so it's one of those things where it doesn't matter. Like literally nothing you did matters unless it's like ongoing, like R. Kelly status, right? Just understand that it's not as bad as you think. All right. All right. So let's see. Let's see. You said, Ari said, have a good videographer. He was talking, damn, 5 to 7K. Told him 1,500. He said, let's talk. Damn, that's a big difference too. Yeah. So I wouldn't spend that much, 5 to 7K on a videographer. You can find a great videographer for $1,000, especially if you have to tell them what you're going to do, by the way. So you have to tell them, I'm going to give you most of the clips. All I need from you is like maybe some B-roll stuff. And you just edit the thing. Like that's all a videographer does for you is they're essentially editing most of it, and they get like B-roll footage. But there's no way in hell I would ever pay $5,000, $7,000 for a videographer right now, because why would you do that when you can literally hire a videographer full time for you? You can literally go online, hire a videographer full time to work for you for 30 days, and you can give them just as much. Like you can give them $5,000, $7,000 for freaking 30 days. Be like, dude, I'm just going to hire you full time. And he works for your ass full time at that point. And now you just get a video every single day. Get 30 videos at that point. So it doesn't make sense to pay $5,000 to $7,000. All right. All right. So we are good to go. All right. Oh, and by the way, guys, there is no Facebook Live tomorrow. I'm actually flying out tonight. So there is no Facebook Live tomorrow. We're going to start back up 9 a.m. Monday. Monday, 9 a.m. So we're going to start back Monday, 9 a.m. All right. We are good to go for today. Let's see. Craigslist for a videographer. Yep. Yeah, exactly. 7,000. Man, what the hell is that dude thinking? Shoot, 5 to 7,000. You can literally hire someone full time for an entire month for that much. And so I don't know what that dude was thinking. He was trying to screw you over. All right, cool. So we are good to go for today. I will see you guys Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. If you guys have any other questions, make sure you ask a question. Speak Pro Academy members, I know a lot of you members keep saying like, why don't I just do a Facebook Live just for members, like once a week or something? That's literally what this is for. So like Speak Pro members, hey, ask some questions, right? Post inside the group, right? So just make sure you guys are asking questions here. The reason why I stopped doing the Facebook Live inside Speak Pro Academy is because, like, hey, you guys weren't asking as many questions as you should have asked, and that's why I stopped doing it. So, it's one of those things where a lot of people wonder, like, if you look at any guru and you look at why did they stop doing, like, their work as much, the reason is because they got to a point where they felt like they're repeating everything. People weren't listening to them. And then people weren't just asking any questions. And so they're just like, well, why the hell am I putting in all this work when nobody's actually doing any of it? They're not paying attention as much anymore. So they're just like, what the hell? Forget it, right? So it's like you just put your time elsewhere. And so that I completely understand why a lot of these big time gurus, they kind of just go off and then they just start doing like one-on-one coaching and stuff like that. Man, all right. So yeah, guys. Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. I will see you guys Monday, 9 a.m. We're not doing a Facebook Live. I got to head out for an event tonight. So I will see you guys Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Take care, everybody.